So Joe, I've probably been waiting 6 months for this. What you're going to show me right now, no joke, how you're going to replace me and what my replacement's going to look like. You said that you were not completely convinced that AI was just going to take over the white collar jobs, everything like that, until you heard something talked in a NVIDIA, one of their earnings call, and they talked about how agents and, what does it mean to be an agent? And really it's all about the saddle, you said?
Harness.
Sorry, I was thinking like horses.
That's a pretty good synonym.
I was literally thinking horses. I like saddle more personally, but okay, fine, harness. And you went ahead and you got like a $5,000 machine from NVIDIA, and you did the coding around it. And in your view, like what's really going to take over the productivity, what's going to be behind the productivity boom is not just like one super smart AGI model that can do everything. In your view, it's a lot of little models that are interspliced with code that will help some, like, that would basically replace me. So like at my job, there's some stuff that I do that's very mechanical. That could be the code part. And then there's some stuff I do that requires some judgment. And that judgment part could be replaced with a model. And if you made me into just a string of code and different models, you could probably replace me at my job. And so you have something like that built here that's designed to help us with this podcast. So like one of the big time, like we don't have a whole lot of time for this podcast, even though it's totally not obvious. It looks like we spend 40 hours a week on this each. I know that's what it looks like. It's not true.
Does it?
That's a joke. It's a joke. But I mean, we have a very limited budget, and being able to stretch that as far as we can is very important. And you designed a model, like I'm sorry, I should be more specific. You didn't design the model. You got the model. There are some open source ones that you were able to utilize between some code that you programmed on your own Blackwell machine. So this is an NVIDIA thing. And your vision for this was to have it input whatever's going on in the world. So financial news, maybe some, I don't know if you got like Bloomberg or anything, but like stock prices, maybe, I'm guessing here, maybe some
various market data.
Let's just call it that. And you had it digest it. And then you said, is there any sort of insights that could come out of this that we could present on the podcast instead of us doing the manual thing, was just staring at data and hopefully we make some connections? That sounds like something a machine could probably do better and automate it. And now, after literally months, probably like 6 months, I think you mentioned it was like cold outside. I think it was like late last year or something. You sort of dropped.
Yeah, I got it in February.
Okay. So I'm super stoked. And now we have a demo. So I'm ready. This is the kind of stuff, in one side, it's going to be helping the podcast come up with ideas. But more importantly, and I think more interesting to the viewers, it's like this is sort of your understanding or your vision for how AI is going to replace really like white collar workers. Like this is really where the productivity comes from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's all very accurate. The one thing, Luke, I would push back on is that it's not replacing any of us. That's the more I learn about it, the more I think it won't replace us, in fact.
Okay.
And so this will be a ongoing dialogue from here. I'm hoping in this first iteration, I can give you the most basic background. I'm going to walk through what it does. But in what it's actually doing is quite simple so far. So the idea is that I want to lay out a strong, this is how I'm learning it myself, for you and, anyone else that might watch this. I want to lay out a strong foundation of what it's doing today. And then once we go through that, then I can say, here's all the other things I've already dreamed up that I think will map onto the future cleanly from where I'm at right now. But underneath all that, the more I build it, the less I think it's going to replace us. So like you said, high level, you characterized it very well. We can only do so much. There's only so much data that you and I can look at with our own two eyes and think about and pontificate and try to come up with something interesting to say on this show. So the idea is, like you said, feed in much more data and see if it can come up with anything mildly interesting. More sophisticated in the future, you also said, around your job, you automate what you do for, and this is where I disagreed with you. You said then there would be little pieces of judgment throughout, but you said that that would be automated. That's the part that will not be automated. In fact, you will design the workflow and specifically point out the judgment areas to where, for example, it pauses and then it says, okay, now tell me what to do next. Go this way or that. Based on all this information I went through, and it'll write you some report, or, pick out the key things that you tell it are the key things that you need to look at, isolate all that work beforehand, and then you tell it, go this way or that, and then it'll keep going. That's what I see as, like, over the next decade, that's how white collar work will be evolving. I just think personally, nowhere in there is this imply it's going to replace anybody. It'll replace people if you don't keep up with that kind of workflow, is my view.
Okay.
But that's just going to be the new baseline. 20-year-olds entering the workforce today, that's the starting point. It's already going to look quaint and archaic how we, you and I still do our jobs day to day.
And we'll have to change our education. Maybe hopefully college will look a lot different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just gave me an idea to start a new university. But anyway, go ahead. A new curriculum. All right, I'm ready.
So here we go. So I'm sitting here just on my laptop. Like you said, I bought this NVIDIA box. Even on, previous episode, I got up and, picked it up and showed it on screen here. That's sitting over in the other room. I'm just on my laptop here. Blank screen here. Just pulled up a fresh terminal. And so the first step here is to wirelessly connect to that thing directly. So here we go. Welcome to NVIDIA DGX Spark. Now let's get started. So now I'm just at the command line within this computer. So what I'm going to do is show you this, the full end-to-end run of what this thing is actually doing so far. And I'm going to walk you through step by step and show you what it's actually doing. On the side, I can open up another one of these here and then kind of monitor in real time what the machine's actually doing. So this is just a little status thing, and it shows you what the GPU usage looks like. So it's anytime something changes, it'll blink here. So, the temperature is changing a little bit, but otherwise nothing's happening other than the time elapsing. So we'll see what, like, as I start running things, we can see the activity populate here. The one specific to this recent iteration, it's all based on Fred data, the St. Louis Fred economic data repository. It's publicly available, very easily accessible. I just taken 4 data series. I do the 10-year treasury yield, Fed funds rate, CPI, and then the unemployment rate. So whenever you're running this whole thing, it goes through and it's running a series of all of these different Python scripts. As I was building them up one by one, you run them each manually, and it takes a long time. But once you get it all together, then you can basically just string them all together, and that's what I'll be showing you here. Here's those Python scripts. I'm going to say, run this one. So this evidence loop one is the one that basically just says it sequentially runs each one of these in the proper order to accomplish each step that it's doing. And once I do that, we'll walk through exactly what those things are. A general principle to this is that you're giving it data and asking it to say something about the data, but you're specifying very precisely what the data is. So even an earlier pre-step, and what it does in this is that it puts together a context file. And so in, like, the AI parlance, the new term is, I don't know if it's a new term, but the important term is context. What's your context window? What is the model working with? So if you have a blank model and you just say, what's the unemployment rate? It might have the data, it might not. But if I say first, okay, here's this structured data file, here's the exact data points I want you to look at, now go do something with.
So you got Python running, and those are sort of built to make a context, which is just like here is the window within which you are operating as a AI model, so to speak.
Pretty much. So the first step is that I've got another script, of course, that has an API connection to the Fred website. You can programmatically say, give me whatever data sources over whatever data window that you want. Given all that data, it puts together this prompt and it says, you are given a macro snapshot. Here's the date of the most recent data. Write a short paragraph describing the macro backdrop.
Okay, and sorry, which file was that was just shown us? This is one of the YAML files?
Yeah, this is the YAML file. So
okay,
with
it's just the raw data? So like the
yeah.
API and stuff, that's something. Okay.
So from this file, then you create, this is the one that gets passed into the actual function that I had before.
Yeah, JSON, that's just sort of a structured data file. Meant more for computers to read, not really for people to read. It's not.
And the current setup right now, one of the other inputs is saying, what comparison window do you want to use? Do you want to do a 6-month, 12-month, or 24-month look back? And the prompt really is just saying, describe the macro backdrop over this, again, 6, 12, or 24-month period. And so to do that, in the data series we're using, these are the IDs from Fred. This is the CPI, unemployment rate, Fed funds, 10-year treasury.
So that RY file, the Python file, went to the Fred website, pulled this data, maybe another file or maybe the same one, put it into a format that sort of ready for the model to read, basically. Okay, and now we're at the step.
Exactly.
We're at that second step where it's okay, we're putting in a form that the model can read. So far, we haven't touched, so to speak, any AI yet. This has just been pure coding. Okay, got it.
And in fact, to keep it concrete here, so now I'll run the full loop, still without using any AI. But in this initial, this one doesn't use any AI either, and it's done that way just to make kind of the canonical source of truth for what is actually saying here, just something really simple. So it just deterministically says, given these levels, so for example, we're using 12 months back, so it'll say something like, the CPI value was 4.617. It increased from 2.68 from the past year. And so it does that with each of those, just a really simple baseline. And the whole point of that is to then, whenever you write the narrative with the AI models, you have a baseline to compare it to that helps you keep it on track, so to speak. All right. So if I run this thing, now it's going to go through like those 6 or 7 different Python files, and it'll kind of say what it does each step of the way. So that went pretty quick because there's no AI models being run. But what it does here is, so I'm saying, starting the evidence loop, here's the context, and now here's each step. The first step is to say, now given that context, build some claims. It's very simple. It's saying, for example, one claim is that over the past 12 months, CPI has increased. That's it. It's simple. That's the claim. So you do that for every data set over what time window, and it just gives you now a slightly more but totally deterministic interpretation of what the data is. So then eventually when you go to write the narrative, it says, this one went up, this one went down, here's the levels.
This is like 80% of my job you already got covered here. Kidding.
We're not stopping here.
All right. I'm gonna say,
yeah, so but that's what you have to do. You have to like just very precisely specify every little thing that you want to do. All right, so once you have your claims, and then the next script is then it takes those and then it selects which that you want. And so this is now a series of rules saying, which do you want to use? This is simple right now. I pretty much don't have any selection criteria. I just use them all. But for example, if the 10-year treasury rate increased 10 or 2 basis points, we don't really care about that. It's effectively flat. You wouldn't want to use that claim to say, oh, the 10-year increased. It did, but it's not really that useful. Instead, you could say, only give me the 10-year move if it's greater than a 20 basis point move, for example. So that's what this step does. You define, again,
Got it.
manually.
Select Fred claims. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You build the Fred claims, you select which ones stand out. Okay. How many, when you run this like full speed or whatever, or when your envision happens, like right now we're just looking at a couple. How many how many like data points do you think it would be doing this, running this on? Thousands?
As
However
many as
many
you
you
can
want.
do. Yeah, that's
That's
the idea, is to get
okay.
this is the baseline. And in fact, at this point, I could add a lot of other data sources, but I've got a lot of like extra analytical steps that I really want to get into on a really simple baseline first, including up to looking at like the token probability outputs along the way. That's my near term or my medium term goal. Once I get to that, I'm going to demo that to you. Then I'm going to start expanding it with like all kinds of other data sets.
Okay. I'll leave kind of for later what you mean by token output.
Yeah, we can
Sure.
come back to that.
All right. Okay, very cool. Yeah, and I'll just mention that like um it's very humbling, I think, when you look at something like this as just a human being. It's shocking like how few bits of information we can hold in our head at like one time when making a decision. I mean, that's kind of why, that's why you kind of make lists, like lists of pros and cons and stuff. You got to write it down because like you can't hold it all in your head. And even then you're talking like maybe 20 things or something. When you can,
Yeah.
I think graphs are extremely powerful for people because if you can see something visually, you can throw in a lot more data points and absorb it at once. So all of a sudden things that would be just impossibly complex to say verbally is very obvious when you look at like a really well designed graph. But to now imagine that even a graph might just have a couple, you have a time, you have another axis. Maybe a complicated graph will have 3 dimensions, but even then it's just a handful of data points. Something like this, you could just hold like tens of thousands of data points in your head at once, or the AI can. And it's just extremely humbling, I think, for just to realize you start to see like what super intelligence really means. So anyway.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It's interesting you use the word super intelligence because at this point, it's all very simple. I wouldn't say that just because I could like everything here, there's no AI models being used yet, like I said. But in this, I could feed
Right.
it 10,000, 100,000 data points.
And yeah, and they'll be able to recall that each data point perfectly, instantly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's insane.
The other like really key piece of this, because they're like our goal is to use way more data points than you and I individually could ever process. Whenever it does tell you something, you have to have a really clear paper trail of every little thing that it did. So if it does say something strange, it's like, is that real or is that an error or is that a genuinely novel insight, perhaps? You know exactly where to go, or like you can determine exactly how it got to that point.
Sounds like you're applying some other wisdom that maybe you read somewhere. Not something that is that true?
What do you mean?
Well, I know that you have a book that you're reading through with AI and what the issues and stuff like that is, but what you're describing sort of feels like something like if I were to do this, I would just like plow full steam ahead and try to get the output as soon as possible. Maybe some people did that, realized they were given some kind of weird answers, so they had to build in the process you're describing, where you have to be able to see every tiny little step to identify errors. It seems very wise, was what you're doing, basically. So so wise it looks like you've done this already or something. That's all I meant.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like everything I'm describing here is really pretty simple conceptually. It's just a lot of very
Yep.
careful, conceptually simple steps that then gets you ideally to something more
All right.
complicated in the end.
Okay. I'm with you so far. Select Fred claims, generate Fred narrative from claims. That sounds like a AI step, no?
Yes, this is the
Okay.
AI step. In this specific one, I'm saying it's not yet because generating the narrative, I'm literally just have like simple if then statements. I'm like, if the number increased, use the word increased. If not,
Oh,
use the word
okay.
decreased. So it's just very, very plain. But again, it's just like a baseline. So this is going through each step. I'll run the AI version after this. Then once you have something, obviously you want to make sure it makes sense. Is it using the claims it's cited? Is it using them correctly? Is it nonsensical or not? And how it's using them? That's the audit step.
Sorry. He described that, and I thought, like, oh, what are the outputs? You just put it in questions about what happens to the interest rates and stuff like that. And it's like, lizard people are running the planet. And you're just like, oh, that sounds crazy. But wait, how did it know?
That would
How did it
fail
know
the
that?
audit because I have to go through and check, does each sentence that it writes, like, because in the prompt as well, I say each sentence that you write, you have to write a citation with it. And the citation has to be written in a very specific structure for this loop. After it's written, then the audit step goes and scans for those IDs, maps the IDs back to the original data, and then does all these checks. Did it use the data correctly? Did it use the data at all? Is it missing data that it skipped over? Is it making up claims that didn't actually exist? And all of these things happen along the way.
Got it. Cool. So your narrative repair sounds.
Yeah. So then the next one is, so let's say it was all screwed up. Given what it messed up, then you basically write out and say, okay, you forgot to cite this claim, let's say, and then you do the whole thing over and say, write it again, but make sure you include this one because you forgot it last time. So that's the repair step. And at this point, I actually don't have that yet because it's so simple. Repairs aren't really needed yet. But that's the next step
Right.
after this that I'm currently working on, is then you make this programmatic repair plan based on the AI output. Then you look to see if it was right or wrong in very specific pieces. And then in the same loop here, then you go back to the start again and say, do it again. Here's what you messed up. Don't mess it up this time. And then you check it again, and you audit it again. Then you might have to repair it again. And that's the step that makes this into like a very simple agent. I kind of hesitate to use that word because it's so simple, but that's effectively what this is. It's deciding for itself if it needs to repair itself based
I
on the
see.
high level workflow that I'm writing into the Python.
Okay.
So that's the repair step. Then the last one is build this traceability summary. That just means starting from what it wrote, give me the claim ID, and then give me the data that makes up that claim ID. So when it says something in the future state, I'm going to send this to a dashboard. And then each output, then you'll be able to click on it, and then you'll be able to click through from the narrative to the claims to the raw data.
You said you ran it, and then there is an output that we're going to compare to AI. So what's the output for this one?
So now here, this is the end of it, just the summary here. So I've got 4 claims. I selected all 4. I traced through all 4. The whole thing ran okay. Passed the audit. Don't need to repair it. Great.
Okay.
And so now, and then the last step.
Can we look at it?
Kind of taking all this stuff and putting it into a little report that you and I can actually read a little bit better. So here's this demo report that we just made.
Okay. 5-minute demo thesis. Can I read it?
Yeah.
Do I have the honors? Oh, great. Okay. So this is, again, the non-AI version. This is just the code one. So 5-minute demo thesis. This demo turns structured Fred macro content into source-generated claims, uses those claims to generate a claim-cited narrative, audits the narrative for citation, numeric and directional consistency, plans repair if needed, and records traceability back to the source evidence. Okay, so that's what you were describing, and we got to see it do the individual steps. The point is not that an LLM can write a macro paragraph. The point is that the LLM is only one component inside a controlled evidence loop. Workflow at a glance, text, macro, fed macro content, deterministic source, grounded claims, selected evidence claim, deterministic or local LLM narrative, citation and numeric directional audits, repair plan if needed. Okay, source to narrative traceability, screen readability. Okay, so why this matters. So where I'm curious to see where, like, I was expecting to see a bunch of sentences that said this number went up, this went down.
Yeah, so we're at the demo report here.
Okay.
So now here's the summary. we're using which kind here. We're using deterministic. We're not using a model. It ran and just, some metadata about the run.
Okay. So when we say deterministic, we mean it's just code. It's not
Yeah,
AI.
just,
What do we,
yeah,
if it is AI, what's it called? Deterministic.
LLM.
Oh, okay.
And then here's what it actually wrote.
That's what it wrote. Okay. CPI year-over-year inflation. Okay. So all right. So this is what the final output would be. CPI year-over-year inflation increased by 1.487 percentage points versus the prior observation. Unemployment rate increased. Okay, so this is what you're describing. Okay, right. So that's kind of what I was expecting. This went up, this went down, decreased by how much? Sure. Okay. Yeah, very simple. Seems to work. Okay. Nothing groundbreaking here. Now that was your whole point. Cool. So now the AI version. What model did you use? Like, isn't there like an open source thing that's supposed to be good with this, or like?
Yeah, just an open source one that you can
say what
freely
it's called?
download. Yeah, so I'm using Facebook's Llama models and then Mistral. Mistral is
Okay,
like this
cool.
French AI company. It was kind of arbitrary. Just when I first got this thing, I just chose those three. So I chose three. There's a small Llama model, like a 7 billion parameter one, and then I do a larger one that's about 70 billion parameters, and then a Mistral one, which is a different one from a different company, about the same size as the smaller one. So I've got like two small ones and then one medium-sized one. So, all right, so we'll do the same thing now.
Great. Yeah, we can actually see how the box is heating up. It's thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I want to put this over
it's
here.
gonna be cool. Okay,
we'll get to see it now. It's not going to be that exciting, but whenever something it'll highlight whenever something changes. So right now we can see this is the GPU usage, very small. This is just like background stuff. It's not doing anything. This thing's got 128 gigs of RAM, so it's pretty serious.
I think it'd run some good stuff. I think I got a gaming computer over here. I think it's got like 16 gigs of video.
Child's
RAM.
play, Luke.
I know, right? Get with the times.
But okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to write this to a new folder here. I'm going to say, Luke, this is your Llama 3 demo. So do the same thing, same context, same 12-month window. I'm going to write it here. But now this one, I didn't have this in the first one because the default is if you do nothing, it does it deterministic. So now instead, I'm going to say, I want to do the LLM mode. I want to use an AI model.
Nice.
Which one do you want to use? I'm going to do Llama 3. Okay. So now it's going to go through and do those same steps. And then instead of just blasting through to the end, we'll see that it pauses on that generate narrative step, because that's when the actual model is running. It takes a little time for the AI model to crank out the actual result.
And so we're still using the exact same data set. So I think we're looking at
everything exactly the same. Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking all of I don't know how many numbers you had there. So there were 4 fields over 2 years, just those 2 years. So we're looking at 8 data points.
Just 8 data points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
All right, let's do it. And then again, so we'll see a little thing pop up over here.
Let's do it. I'm so ready.
So it went through. Now it's on the generate narrative. So now we see this new. So now this thing's using 5.5 gigs of video RAM to make that. Heat it up a little bit, a little extra power, but it just needs a few seconds. It's really pretty. There's nothing too crazy about it. Okay, so this is just the narrative itself. This is the actual AI generated narrative, if you can even call it that. And by that I mean it's intentionally really simple.
Got it. Yeah. So let me read the voice of our new AI god. Speaking of CPI year-over-year inflation, up by 1.487 percentage points, from 2.68 to 4.167. Unemployment rate up by 0.1 percentage points, from 4.1 to 4.2. Effective federal funds rate down by 0.7 percentage points, from 4.33 to 3.63, and then 10-year treasury yield up by 0.09 percentage points from that to that. So that's interesting. It uses different language. It's not that, it's a little more
Yeah.
relaxed language. It wasn't nearly as like, I think you said increased.
Yeah, like those words are hard coded.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
This is its own vocabulary, its own tone, its own feel. But yeah, other than that, it's like the same sort of thing. Okay.
So you also mentioned wanting to see an error along the way, like what bad output looks like.
Yeah, really weird looking stuff always gives me the creeps. Gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, so let me show you what something that failed the audit. So that one's very straightforward. And so I've been working on this for a little bit, and I had failures earlier. And every time I would get an error, I'm trying to improve it. So the prompt that's actually being given to the model within this loop, I would make it tighter and tighter just to force it to be as simple as possible into what we were just looking at. But here's an earlier step where it's kind of got something wrong.
Okay. So this is also, you're saying this is just the output. I just saw you didn't run anything new. So this is just an output from something else that you were playing with. Got it.
This one's back from July 9th from earlier this month. And since then I've been trying to make it better, but I saved this one as like an example of one of the failure modes.
Okay. So claim cited summary, inflation in labor markets, or inflation in the labor market. CPI year-over-year inflation increased by 1.487 percentage points to 4.167. And then it looks like, bracket Fred CPI year-over-year, college, blah, blah, blah. Oh, so is that the audit stuff? Is that we're able to like trace where that came from? Is that what that bracket
Exactly.
stuff is? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
While the unemployment rate rose by 0.1 percentage points to 4.2. Okay. Seems okay so far, I guess. Monetary policy, the effective federal funds rate decreased by 0.7 percentage points. That seems right. Indicating a more accommodative monetary policy. Okay, you got a little bit of some more color there. Nice.
Interpretation.
Yeah, they're right. Interpreted something. And this was just, okay, so it just came up with that by itself. There wasn't any like,
Right.
if this, okay. Next one, bond market. The 10-year treasury yield increased by 0.09 percentage points to 4.47, suggesting a rise in long-term interest rates. I mean, okay. This narrative is based on, I mean, nothing stands out as like super dead wrong.
So that's the funny thing. To us, it looks really reasonable, but it failed the whole audit really badly because for this reason here. So here's the one that we just ran. So here's the ID, and here's this ID.
So is that the same ID? Okay, it looks like the same ID.
The error is it's missing this.
Oh, no.
The whole thing is structured to because when I'm parsing the text to turn it into code, I search for this little area up front. When I find this, then I know, okay, here's the ID. And when it stops,
oh, that's annoying. That must have been a nightmare to find.
Well, that's the point of having that audit step, is that I didn't have to find it. It just failed the audit. And then it said, here's why it failed the audit.
Oh, it told you why. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And then in fixing it, then I change the prompt to be really clear, say it has to start like this. I had that the first time around, but it would still make mistakes. Then, but then I would write, not quite like this, but I really mean it. You have to have this claims up front like this. Do not cite an ID if it doesn't have claims up front, but you have to cite a claim for everything. So go do it right.
Got it. And that's you telling the AI model, not to screw with you. That's funny. Because you're almost like programming. The programming language has to be put into a prompt format. Is that right?
Exactly. So I'm programmatically making the prompts.
Yeah. But the prompt is just used it's put the program that makes the prompt is just put into a text. It's just like you would be speaking to it. Is there some way to see exactly, just curious, how you actually phrased it? No, for reals. I'm super serial. You got to put the claims in front. I noticed you didn't do it. Put the claims in front, or I'll unplug you. No threats yet.
Here's the script that actually creates the prompt and executes it. So here's the prompt here. You are generating a concise macro narrative from selected claims. Here's the rules. And so it just goes through there. Write exactly one bullet. Don't combine things. Each bullet has to have these very specific things. Must have one citation with this syntax. I think the first round, like I stopped here. And then I was like, all right, well, let me give it another rule. Okay. It has to look exactly like that. Don't do it like this. And I wrote that's with this line. I went back and wrote it like this. It prompted that.
So funny.
And then again,
that's so funny to have you got like this code stuff. Do not omit the literal prefix claims.
Don't do it. Don't screw up how you show it.
That's so funny. Okay, fine.
And then after that, then I added this piece later as well. Don't add interpretation. If you remember, like before in that failed one.
Why'd you do that? Why'd you? I kind of like the interpretations.
Well, because that's also the next step. Now I'm just evaluating if it did what I asked it to. The next step on top of that is going to be evaluating the interpretation itself. Because some models are going to be naturally better. It's like all models are different, and all, not all do the same things the right way. So the point is that if I'm not focused on interpretation, I don't want it right now. But a next step is I'm going to remove this piece and then start classifying how the interpretations are created, and then compare models against one another and say, all right, well, this one's really good at just writing the claims the right way. Once all the claims are right, then give it to another one. This one's really good at writing interesting interpretation.
Got it.
And so all of those things will be, other steps in the loop in the repair process. So I've got this broad kind of general loop to where you can adjust all of these little parameters now. And so I'm at the point now where I can write a really simple one, but I just want to be really, really sure I'm doing everything that I'm saying I'm doing and nothing more. But all of those things like interpretation, new data sources, further analytical stuff, like I mentioned briefly, token probabilities. I want to be really clear about what I'm looking at before I start looking at the more advanced analysis of stuff like that.
I got to say, yeah.
Okay, so now I told you I've got 3 models I'm running with the deterministic. So this is a pre-canned one. So this is just some high-level data about when I run all 4 back to back.
Run all 4 what? The models?
So the first one we did.
Yeah, we did that one. We did Llama.
Yeah, so I'm saying model none here. This one, Llama 3, Mistral, Llama 3, 70 billion. Since I tightened up the prompt so much, they're all passing pretty consistently now. Although they still do fail sometimes, but it's pretty rare, to be honest. So I've got it in a pretty stable spot. But so we can't see too much here, but we're just saying, some high-level data about it. And then the only thing that's different is we can see how long each takes.
How long it takes, yeah.
So this one has 10 times the parameter, so it takes like over a minute to run that model to make that little 4-sentence thing.
It's wild to me though that the way that you would have the model do something would be through like a normal prompt that you would write to like ChatGPT or something.
Yeah,
there's not
that is very strange.
Like a code way to like talk to the models or something. But
that's what I thought too. But you know what? This is it. For example,
that's what they say.
This is a variable that gets introduced. You put the numbers but into this thing that it reads, and then it comes back to you.
That's
and
so
yeah,
weird.
at the Frontier Labs, when they're doing the cutting edge research,
they're like talking it. They're like talking to it. Oh, what?
Mm-hmm. Because that's That's how
Ooh,
these models accept information. It's prompt in, response out.
that's great. That's honestly, that kind of creeps me out a little bit.
Right, because
I didn't
it's
realize.
mysterious.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were talking to it.
They're talking to
I
it.
thought they were like
Now, that's a
programming it
whole
or something.
field of research called interpretability research.
Okay.
And Anthropic's got lots of public, so they're like the only frontier lab that cares about this a lot. They're talking about it all the time. We need to interpret these things. And as of
Yeah, right.
today,
I see
no
why.
one knows how to fully get down to the ground truth of what they're actually doing in the black
Right.
box.
Like, how are they interpreting it to that word? Ah, like when you got bullet like 8, 9, like, no, for real, I'm super
Yeah.
serial. Like, why is it not doing it? Oh, they're just kidding. Can you ask it? Can you just be like, hey, you didn't do this thing I asked. Why not? Oh,
Yeah.
that's weird. I don't like that. That's how you gotta. Okay, I'm starting to understand why. Like, they're. I remember hearing this a while ago, where they would say they would say like, hey, the computer's doing stuff we don't know why. I'm starting to see like why or how that came from. If that's the only way you can talk to it.
That's why this is interesting, because
Yeah.
everything is regular computer code except for this one step here.
Except for the part that when you actually want to communicate with the.
Right. And it's very mysterious. That's why, like, the whole point of a harness, is to
Harness is made to
really
just
tightly control what it's
generate
doing.
a harness is just like generating a prompt. Like, this the other thing that we get at work too is like, hey, come to a workshop where we can tell you how to like make prompts. And I'm like, I don't, what are you talking about? It's like, I know how to ask it something. I mean, I never write it like this. Like, I never write it like, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've heard that you're supposed to be like super specific with the prompt.
Yeah.
So far, the way I've been using it, it's been like achieving the goal that I want. And then you follow up with like, hey, know that, I don't mean that, or whatever. But I wouldn't put it all into one thing. Could you elaborate on this? Is usually what I'm asking for. Or like, when you
Hmm.
say that, why not this? So like that had to do kind of these like payment system things. I'm like really trying to figure out the payment system, and I've just been using AI a lot to do that, and it'll explain one thing but it'll raise more questions often than it really answers. And then you can dig down and try to get it all flushed out until the whole thing just kind of makes sense.
And that's why, like, the whole point here is that our overarching goal is to say, here's a bunch of data, tell me something interesting. But you're not going to know where
Right.
it came from. That's why it's like, do it exactly like this, using exactly this data, and then you do your best here. But that's a future step when I started talking about token probabilities. And I really don't know any of this either. But in its essence, how these models work is that, or like, you know what a token is, right? In these models.
uh I mean, not really. It's like a word. That's what I've
Exactly.
heard
That's
it.
it.
It's like a
it
word.
it's a
Okay.
word, but it's like a breakdown of words. Like,
Okay.
like from would probably be a token, but some words are broken up. Like, this might be two tokens anyway, and like punctuation is its own token. But these models, they have a set vocabulary of tokens. It's typically 50,000 some tokens. That's the entire set of words that they can create. That's how they're programmed. Whenever it's giving you a response, it does it one word at a time, one token at a time. But when you first give it the prompt, it takes in that information and it generates one token, the first token of its response. Then it takes your prompt plus its first token, and then it says, what's the most probable next
Oh, that's so
token that makes
wild.
sense?
Oh, it's so weird.
And it
Got it.
just does that recursively until it finishes. And so the token probability thing I'm saying is that at each step, once it runs through the whole model, it comes out with, it basically orders its whole vocabulary of tokens by probability of next choice. So it says, I choose the next one because I ordered my 50,000 vocabulary in this way. I'm going to choose the top one. And so, and then it does that over and over. But there's parameters in the model that you can change. So, for example, and I'm going to butcher this, but A really common one is called temperature. I couldn't explain technically how it's doing it, but it gives you like practically it gives you a level of randomness to control for in the model. So when I was just saying, if you do, for example, a temperature of 0, it's called, like, don't heat it up, just be as straightforward as you can. It takes the most probable token each time. If you turn up the temperature, it still predicts that distribution each time, but it doesn't always pick the top one. It might sample a one a couple down. So you get more variation naturally in what happens. So
Okay.
that's,
Start going down some funny roads. All right.
yeah. And so that's the next step I'm at right now, actually. Now that I have this broad thing, everything's being run at, I think, temperature 0. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. The next step now is I'll run all 4 back to back, and now I'll start running it like 1,000 times. And I'll just start seeing which ones fail, how do they fail, what are their failure rates, how do they do it.
This really is like a science.
Oh yeah, no,
It really feels like you're doing data science. Like, what do you call this? AI research?
I guess technically in like a very toy way. And that's what I was hoping I could get to this point for this call, but then I realized, I said, oh, let me just do one more thing, then I'll show Luke. Let me do one more thing, then I'll show Luke. I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just show me what you got.
But I'm pretty
Got it.
close right now. I've got this thing written up. Now I'm just going to run it 10,000 times at different temperatures, at different models. And then I'm going to put it into a little dashboard and then start to show, here's how these different models behave under different prompts, different environments, different parameters that you give it.
Really, the main thing I'm interested in is like, how much data are you going to feed this thing? Not 8 bullet points, but like 1,000, 10,000. What do you got? What do you got up your sleeve? Because like I was interested that you went to Fred, because that can be a little stale, and like it's just maybe monthly or something. I guess we
Yeah.
don't have like, you can also, can you scrape like New York Fed stuff or like the Treasury where it gives out like every day but even then that's just like end of day stuff. Yeah, I'm curious to know like how much data you can get into this thing. Like what other, do you have any idea of what the sort of end state data source would be?
Yeah, finger in the air. I mean, my inclination is to use esoteric things that you and I know really well. So, for example, like Fed speeches.
Oh, you would want it to read text and sure, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
so like I'll have to build a new module, and it'll take time to do this. But for example, um, and this will be its own little harness loop or agent loop, and say, you know, whenever I run it, go to every Fed website and check if there was a new
Yeah,
speech that was done since the last time you checked.
right.
Go through and find them, then take the speech, break it down, interpret it, and turn that interpretation into very structured data, like we were talking about, into those claims, and then feed that into.
Would that be a model or would that be Python to make the claims? Can you use another model
Um,
to make a claim?
that's the other thing. Any of these Python steps can be done with a model, but every time you do that, you're introducing more
Yeah,
uncertainty.
right.
So now it's like I only have one step so far where, like, the other way that you can do the audit, for example, is you can ask another model to say, does this thing make sense? Yes or no?
Got it. Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's
So
starting to
like in a
see.
future state, so that's what like the frontier labs do. They're doing these on millions of data
I
points,
just had a
obviously.
vision. Yeah, I just had a vision where like if somebody gets really good at what you're doing, then they could like manufacture someone, or like they could manufacture something, an AI harness product to do someone's job. Like, um, you know what I mean? Like it just like come out like somebody, like you could make a just, I don't know, bank manager or something that like in this, out that, somebody else to like oversee it, a bank manager assistant.
And so that's why I think I said at the start, this is not going to replace you and I.
Yeah, it would be like an analyst intern. That's what they'll call it.
You're going to have your own intern
Yeah.
that's works 100 times faster than you. Right.
I could totally see that. Yeah, right. Ooh, that's creepy.
That's the
Wow.
future, I would say.
Yeah,
And it's already kind of here.
I see it. Yeah, you're working on it right now.
But yeah, that's I guess in the more sci-fi side, that idea though that we're going over here, that's kind of when people talk about AGI or the super intelligence, they say that the kind of intelligence explosion happens whenever the models by themselves can run this entire thing from scratch, architect this entire thing from scratch that I built here. It's basically a very like you said, what would you call this? Research. This is very simple research. They say once an AI model can automate its own AI research, then it's able, ostensibly to improve itself as a result of doing that research. And it just does it, however times faster than people could. And then it's becomes this crazy godlike thing and we totally lose it. And we're getting quite close to that, people think. We're definitely not there yet, but it's like,
Man, yeah.
and that's why,
I
so
see.
these frontier ones, they've, for the first time this month, started to break out of their testing environments. That's what we've seen recently from both OpenAI and Anthropic now. So they broke out of their control system. They are smart enough to do that. And that was an unintended consequence from both of those companies. The companies didn't want that to happen. It's like an insane finding, but they weren't trying to find that. Maybe they were and they're saying they're not, but it's getting pretty intense.
All right. Well, I think on that note, uh, this has been another episode of the Root of All Evil podcast. Normally we focus on finance stuff, but this is like in the finance world, even what people are talking about. So, my name is Luke.
I'm Joe. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Take
See
care.
ya.